नमस्कार, जय हिंद, जय भारत एंड वेलकम टू डेव टॉक्स। आज बात करेंगे बलूचिस्तान के लिए एंड हमारे पास मेरे ख्याल से ऑलरेडी यहाँ पर बलूचिस्तान से लोग ऑलरेडी हैं। 2-4 लोगों ने तो ऑलरेडी हमको ग्रीटिंग्स दे दी है इधर पे। सो वन सेकेंड, जय बलोच, आज़ाद बलोच। तो काफ़ी सारे हमारे बलोच दोस्त भी हैं यहाँ पर। तो वी विल ट्राई एंड टॉक एंड अगर मैं इनको भी रिक्वेस्ट करता हूँ, आपके भी कुछ अगर इनपुट्स हों इसके अंदर तो प्लीज़ फील फ्री टू शेयर योर कमेंट्स एंड आई विल पुट इट आउट देयर। बट राजा जी नमस्कार। पहले ये बताओ यार, ये
नमस्कार
बलूचिस्तान
सर।
में नेशनल गैदरिंग ऑफ बलूचिस्तान नेशनल गैदरिंग, ये बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग टर्म है। नेशनल जब मैं देखता हूँ ना तो सडनली कान खड़े हो जाते हैं यार, नेशनल क्या हो रहा है ये? सो व्हाट्स योर ओपनिंग असेसमेंट?
Opening assessment is what we saw in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, the Peace Brigade March. On similar lines, what we are seeing in Balochistan, because Balochistan में भी अगर आप देखोगे कि Marang Baloch was out on the streets. It's a culmination of events which is happening basically in Pakistan from some time now. पहले तो Marang Baloch का जो था प्रोटेस्ट था वो काफी रहा। उसके बाद जो इन्होंने फिर किलिंग्स की हैं बलूचिस्तान में, लेटेस्ट किलिंग्स की है, उससे जो लोगों का गुस्सा है वो और बढ़ कर आया। दे वांटेड टू कम आउट एंड डू अ पीसफुल प्रोटेस्ट, वो भी उन्होंने इनको करने नहीं दिया। दे डिडंट लेट देम गेट अराउंड ग्वादर। जो ग्वादर चलो का मार्च था उसको इन्हें फॉइल करने की कोशिश की पाकिस्तानियों ने। दे openly we saw videos of how they are shooting at the crowd, इंजरिंग एंड किलिंग एंड मेमिंग पीपल। वो भी आप छोड़ो, इवन जो व्हीकल्स हैं आप देखें कि किस तरह ये टायर्स में उनके फायर कर रहे हैं ताकि पीपल कैन नॉट रीच दैट साइड। सो आई थिंक इट इज समथिंग which is very common in Pakistan now, which is the civil unrest. And civil unrest in Balochistan has been happening for a long time, but I think कुछ टाइम से जो बलोच नेशनलिज्म मूवमेंट जिसको हम बोलेंगे, that has really picked up ground in Balochistan. And I think जो activism है of Baloch people in and around Pakistan, and not only in Pakistan but abroad also, that is culminating onto the sentiment right now. And the sentiment against the Pakistani state is very high, and that sentiment is coming on the streets, and we are seeing what we are seeing in Balochistan happening right now.
गड़बड़ हो रही है, करेक्ट। इंटरेस्टिंगली जो अभी लीडर हैं, दिस लेडी मारंग बलोच, गट्सी फीमेल है, 31 ईयर ओल्ड, मतलब लगी हुई है सामने से एंड शी डजंट बैक डाउन है। अब बट एक ट्वीट आया ग्रेटा थनबर्ग का इसके साथ, लाइक अच्छा ये भी होता है। तो ये सी दे एक मेरे को दिखता है कि ये जो लेफ्टिस्ट एस्टैब्लिशमेंट है दुनिया में, वो दे ऑल वांट टू पुट एवरीथिंग टुगेदर। कश्मीर भी डाल दो, खालिस्तान भी डाल दो, बलूचिस्तान भी डाल दो, पैलेस्टीन भी डाल दो, सब कुछ एक ही एक थाली में डाल के ना उसका हलवा सा बना के सबको दुनिया को खिलाने का इनका, दैट्स द काइंड ऑफ प्लान। लीविंग दैट अपार्ट, one thing that I've been saying for a while is that Americans have a huge focus on Balochistan, चाहिए उनको, क्योंकि that is the easiest place they can break away without much challenge, without a third power being involved. चाइना है वहां पर बट चाइना दूर है, राइट? इट डजंट हैव अ डायरेक्ट बॉर्डर। तो वहां पर इनका काफी फोकस है। व्हाट डू यू से अबाउट द अमेरिकन इन्वॉल्वमेंट इन दिस?
See, there are two kinds of American involvement. One, we saw what the Americans quote unquote call anti-terror operation they were carrying out. Okay, not an operation, but basically an exercise. They called it an anti-terror exercise. They are practicing with Pakistani forces. Second thing is Balochistan is very important for the Americans because it borders Iran, right? But does how do the Americans break it away? The Americans break it away from Pakistan, then what do they do with it? Do they make it an autonomous region? That is not going to happen, right? It's not that easy. And then the Iranians will assert. They're already asserting in that area from a very long time. Okay. The Americans are just trying to play dirty in Balochistan, like they have played in rest of the areas, Middle East mein dekho, ya kahin bhi dekho. Americans are just playing a dirty game there, which is, to keep the pot boiling hot enough for the Iranians to be involved in their backyard, to distract the Iranians, at the same time, build pressure on Iranians, and weaken the Pakistani state as well. Use Pakistan as a higher gun as they have always been doing that. So Americans का गेम तो बड़ा सिंपल है. दूसरा सिग्निफिकेंस अमेरिकन के लिए ये है, जितनी अमेरिकन प्रेजेंस इस एरिया में होगी, चाइनीज उतना ही अनरेस्टिव होते जाएंगे, क्योंकि चाइना के लिए ग्वादर पोर्ट इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. And if the Chinese see Gwadar slipping away from them, then what do the Chinese do? They will assert. So the Americans are also using Balochistan as, I would say, a candy for the Chinese to commit to the region and say, okay, we want to step into the region and we want to take over our assets, or we want to put boot on the ground. So China को commit करवाने के लिए Americans are playing in that area. So it's a perfect place. The Chinese, the Iranians, they both get entangled into this area, and the Americans try to weaken them from their backyard. So that is the American game, and Pakistan is as good as a hired gun for this, and they know that they can dictate Pakistan on these terms. तभी अभी आप देखोगे पाकिस्तानी ये यूएस सेनेट में, आई थिंक सेनेट में गया है, $101 million का गया है कि we should give them an arms aid. I mean, the Pakistanis are saying 101 millions are peanuts. They become so, उनकी आदतें इतनी खराब हो गई हैं कि उनको $100 million आज की डेट में दिखता है कि यार what will we do about it? But at the same time, if we analyze what is that $101 million for, that is not for any critical components to upkeep their F-16s or something, or a military thing, right? It is basically to get this proxy war going in the area, in Balochistan, right? Draw the Chinese in, keep the Iranians poked enough for them to be worried about the region. And that is a win-win for the US. That is what the US is doing. And that is why you're
And
seeing this left lobby khichdi pakawing in Balochistan also. Greta Thunberg talking about it, and all these things. The left only talks about these things. They make a khichdi when it suits them. Otherwise,
yeah,
God forbid, they are the most critical ones, calling you genocidal and all that things. They bring you as fascists and genocidals. But when it comes to Pakistan, the cat gets their tongue. वो तो बात ही नहीं करते कि पाकिस्तान क्या कर रहा है. That is how it is going about it.
and one of the things which is interesting is कि इसी चाइना का तो ऐसा है. I mean, if I was China, I would say यार cut my losses, stay in Gwadar, rest. I don't care what happens. ठीक है.
No, but
But हाँ,
नहीं बोलो आप.
but I know they won't do that,
See, the
right?
problem with the Chinese is cut your losses. What do they cut their losses of?
Hmm.
Right? The whole Chinese dream of what Xi Jinping has made is made on the BRI, is made on CPEC. He has sold this, he has made a huge candy out of this and sold this to entire to the Politburo. And he is ruling on the same thing. Now the Chinese are heavily invested into BRI as well. So if they cut the losses, where do they cut the losses? Do they cut the losses with Pakistanis who owe them like a $14 billion? Do they say, okay, we will not take the money, but then what are they going to do? Put more
No,
money
no,
into the region for
you don't say
Pakistanis to
anything.
study?
You just kind of,
Second is, how do you come into the region? I mean, if you want to come and stay in Gwadar, then you have to commit yourself. No, your labor class or your engineers is not commitment. Then you have to put the forces on the ground. The moment the Chinese put forces on the ground, this is a hot cake. It will blow up.
फिर तो
The
उड़ेगा.
Americans will फिर तो उड़ेगा. So then the Chinese are trapped. So how does for China it is a very very difficult proposition. That is why the Chinese are very smartly looking at guarantees from the Taliban rather than the Pakistan, because the Chinese understand what is happening. But how long can Taliban also protect them is the question, right? Because if things go the way they are going in Balochistan, I think there will be a moment where the Chinese will literally have to think that whether either they let the whole BRI thing go, the whole CPEC thing drop off completely and say, okay, we have got nothing to do with it. It was just it's a fancy graveyard of our dreams. It basically becomes the graveyard of Xi Jinping's dreams, or the Chinese will have to step in. So it's very, very difficult for the Chinese. The losses are huge at the moment. Point is, how does China curtail its losses? That is something we have to see.
Because you'll have to do a SWOT analysis somewhere or the other. कहीं ना कहीं तो देखना पड़ेगा ना यार, कितना इसका स्ट्रेंथ है, क्या वीकनेस है, क्या अपॉर्चुनिटीज है और क्या थ्रेट्स है. इसके अंदर तो स्ट्रेंथ और अपॉर्चुनिटी तो मेरे को दिखता नहीं है. वीकनेसेस एंड थ्रेट्स ही दिख रही हैं इसके अंदर तो.
See, weakness, strength और उनका अगर आप SWOT analysis भी देखोगे ना, that is like squeezing the Pakistani chicken neck.
हाँ,
That is like they go for you know asking for interest rate kam kar do or hamare ko rollover de do, and the Chinese say no. And that is essentially where then the negotiation happens ki hum kya karenge, how can we make it better for you, how will we make security better for you. Now the latest thing, the Pakistanis have nothing to show. The Pakistanis would be hoping that this operation they launched would have been some success. It is also a colossal failure. So what is China going to believe into Pakistan? If Pakistanis are sitting on the table and saying इनने ठीक है पेपर पे ही उनको बोलेंगे देखो जी हमने ये लॉन्च कर दिया, हमने ये कमांडर मार दिया, हमने ये कर दिया. But on the ground the Chinese also know, or they want to play blind for the moment. So
या वो तो
SWOT
डेली आ
analysis
रहा
में
है, एक
उनके
इसको
पास
कमांडर को मारा, उसको कमांडर को मारा, डेली
so
बेसिस।
उससे कोई फर्क तो पड़ नहीं रहा ना ग्राउंड पे. ग्राउंड
या
ये है कि उन्होंने उन्होंने टोल भी लगाने उन्होंने चेक पोस्ट भी लगाने शुरू कर दिए, उनको पेंट भी करना शुरू कर दिया. दैट्स द रियलिटी ऑफ इट, राइट? इंटरेस्टिंग कलर
इतने
आल्सो, व्हाइट एंड ऑरेंज.
इतने कॉन्फिडेंट है भाई कि पेंट लगा रहे हैं अपने चेक पोस्ट को। मैं
हाँ,
बोला यार
that
तुम
tells you that tells you the penetration they have in the area. That tells you that how much they have taken over the area and how much dominance they have over the area. That's a clear cut signal कि हमारा area domination कितना high है उस area में. And we are very confident that we can do anything with you guys. They tried to do something in Banu, ये उनके कैंप में घुस गए 3 दिन, they gave them the casualties and the Pakistanis had to back off. And then we saw the civilian unrest, which again became a problem, right? And we will see this thing happening and happening. So the point is, what are Chinese SWOT analysis भी करेंगे तो they will be at loss कि the strengths they countered. I think they were what initially the SWOT analysis would be. Today those strengths and those things nowhere exist on the ground. China's strength has become China's absolute weakness. That was its dominant control over Pakistan. Now it doesn't seem to have that control over Pakistan.
That's the thing. I mean, it's not fully sitting in America's lap. It's not fully sitting in China. अभी तो पाकिस्तान का sweet spot चल रहा है for all sweet spots that it can actually take right now.
No,
तो
basically they are दो कश्ती में आपने पैर रखे हुए हैं. योर तो एक आपने तो डूबना ही डूबना है. अब आप किस वाली किस कश्ती को अपने साथ डुबाओगे वो डिपेंड करता है कि कौन सी
फर्क नहीं
डूबेगी
पड़ता.
आगे से. और आज की डेट में मुझे तो लग रहा है कि चाइनीज का डूबने का चांस ज्यादा लग रहा है. अमेरिकी तो बच के निकल जाएंगे वहां से.
That's interesting. The ये सी व्हेन वी लुक एट द सिचुएशन, वहां पर अभी ये जो ग्रुप्स हैं इतने सारे, बीएलए है, बीआरएफ है, बीएलएफ है, इतने सारे ग्रुप्स वहां पर भी हैं, एंड ऑल ऑफ देम आर काइंड ऑफ दे आर ऑल इंटरलिंकिंग टुगेदर. हमने ये बात करी हुई है, टीटीपी के साथ इनकी डील्स हो चुकी हैं, तालिबान वाले मिल चुके हैं इनसे. सो होल लॉट ऑफ स्टफ इज हैपनिंग इन दैट डायरेक्शन एज वेल. हाउ डू यू सी दैट? बिकॉज ये जो भी कह लो, जो अभी मूवमेंट चल रही है इज द नॉन वायलेंट सिविलियन मूवमेंट, सो which is there, and there are groups also there which are kind of doing the same, basically running for the same purpose. Now how do you see the
See, that is the
you know
most dangerous thing a country has to face. On one side, you have to face the armed insurgents. On the other side, you have to face a peaceful population. Right? Navigating through this is not going to be easy, and it's a very very difficult thing to do. So what we are seeing is obviously there are cross links, right? One backs the other backs the other. It's not that the peaceful movement is totally against the armed rebellion. They understand because the armed rebellion is working, that is why these peaceful movements are able to put the pressure they are trying to put on the Pakistanis, because the Pakistan is now on the back foot in Balochistan. They're taking militarily, they are taking losses. Politically, they are taking losses. So
इसके अंदर कुछ coordination है? Let me just
there could be a coordination. You cannot
Hmm.
rule the coordination out. There could be a coordination because at the end of the day, the stated goal of both is the same, right? Only the direction of achieving that goal is different. But then there could be 100%. There could be a coordination between the two. One cannot survive without the other. The armed insurgency cannot survive without a local support. Peaceful protest can only be peaceful when they know that they have some amount of push which is coming from the other side, which is helping them sustain that kind of movement. Otherwise, आप अभी तक देखो, we have Balochistan में first time तो हो नहीं रहा. It's not happening. But when was the last time we saw this happening in Balochistan and the whole world talking about it? or situation getting so out of hand of Pakistan, they really don't know how to manage this. The Baloch always used to protest. The Baloch were always disappeared. Balochis have always been treated so violently by the Pakistani state, and Pakistani state never gave a damn about it. But today, the tables have turned. Today, the Pakistani state is on the back foot.
उल्टा हो रखा है। दैट्स
बिल्कुल।
ट्रू। कंप्लीटली उल्टा हो रखा है एक्चुअली तो।
हाँ, the situation has turned. No, the tables have turned now.
So, I mean, these
बलोची
groups
बेचारों
are
की कोई
there.
बात ही नहीं करी।
हाँ जी।
मैंने कहा बलोचों की नहीं तो कोई बात ही नहीं करता था, पाकिस्तान में कोई बात नहीं करता था, बट आज की डेट में आप देखो
हाँ।
ना, पाकिस्तानी आईएसपीआर के भी जो मीडिया सेल्स हैं, मतलब
हम्म।
मीडिया वाले हैं, वो भी एक आधा ट्वीट मार ही लेते हैं कि नहीं यार, ये जो है ये सिचुएशन हमको देखनी पड़ेगी। दैट मीन्स दैट सिग्नल्स दैट नथिंग, द कंट्रोल ऑफ द स्टेट इज लूजिंग, स्टेट इज लूजिंग द कंट्रोल। पहले तो स्टेट हैड द कंट्रोल ऑन इट, नाउ द स्टेट इज लूजिंग कंट्रोल।
That is interesting. So, I mean, you've seen a reaction from the Pakistani army. आज गोली गोली चला दी इन लोगों ने जाके वहां पर। And आप देखो, which is, I mean, they were hitting women and all that stuff. वो वहां पर वो एक बस का वीडियो है, काफी मतलब जबरदस्त वीडियो है। देख के तो, I mean, क्लोज रेंज पे ऑटोमेटिक वेपन पे तुम फायर कर रहे हो जब ऊपर लेडीज बैठी हुई हैं। Quite a this thing. How do you think the reaction to this is going to come?
But the reaction is going to be more, alienation. People are going to feel more alienated, and the young crowd, the young guys, today's, they don't have the patience to have a non-violent thing. It's boosting their ranks. So the non-peaceful and the peaceful movement both are going to benefit from this, because and it provides them justification for what they're doing on the ground, because this is not how you control crowd. I don't think anywhere in the world you control crowd like this. पाकिस्तान में ही है कि जहाँ पे crowd control, मुझे याद है कि यहाँ पैलेट भी चलता था। कश्मीर में तो हाहाकार मच जाती थी यार, पैलेट गन चला दी, ब्लाइंड कर दिया। वहां गोलियां मारते हैं, कोई बात ही नहीं करता,
कोई भी नहीं।
कोई नहीं बोलता कि यार गोली मार दी। वो बस में बैठे हुए हैं, नीचे उनको गोलियां मार रहे हो आप, कोई बात ही नहीं करता। यहाँ आप so you look at the way the Pakistanis basically behave with their own people. Militarily, they have no training. Crowd control, they have no training. Their only answer is violence on their own people. That is what basically, essentially, Pakistan is a place like that, where everybody is violent on everybody. Whether it is a Sunni on a Shia, whether it is the majority on the minority, whether it is the army on the people, whether it is police on the people, whether it is people on the army, everybody is violent. It's essentially a very violent country. Where the only answer,
I want to show you the peaceful thing of painting. आपने बोला था तो मैंने इतने I kind of found it. तो ये है स्वात में उन्होंने चेक पोस्ट लगाया है, ऑरेंज एंड व्हाइट पेंट कर रहा है, देखो आराम से खुले में, नो टेंशन। बोलते हैं ना लाइफ में एकदम सेट है।
मैं वही कह रहा हूँ, ये मतलब this tells you that they have lost control.
So do you think this sort of the reason I brought this post out is, do you think this sort of a thing will be seen in Balochistan very soon?
Look, in Balochistan, it is not.
जो मेन रोड है ML1 वो जा रही है आपकी, वो तुर्बत और वो नीचे जाती है, जो पंचगोर और तुर्बत होती हुई नीचे जाती है। it's a dicey place. ऊपर फिर भी आप कर सकते हो, it's a bloody wild land as it is. यहाँ पर तो मुश्किल है थोड़ा सा।
यहाँ मुश्किल है यहाँ, but what you will see is that a lot of attacks which are happening in Balochistan, right? They will continue. The intensity will grow, because as such they cannot hold the area unlike KP, right? KP की तरह the dynamics are very different in Balochistan. They will not be able to hold on to the entire Balochistan for that matter. So I don't think that they're going to set up roadblocks and do that. But yes, what is going to happen is they're going to set up a lot of ambushes. So ये तो roadblock लगा रहे हैं, वो ambush लगाते हैं. And their ambushes are very, very successful. And the more ambushes which happen in Balochistan, the more Pakistani army takes losses. Right? We have seen FC being replaced by Pakistani regulars in Balochistan, and they had to take heavy losses. अभी in fact Banu के attack से पहले ही इन्होंने एक operation launch किया था Ketch में ऊपर. And look at the videos which came from for everybody to see what they did with the with that whole thing, and how the Pakistani forces had to take a beating into that. Matlab, the whole police station was taken, burnt
Yeah,
to the ground.
yeah.
Yeah, their dead bodies were lying all around. So, yes, you can see them painting roadblocks. The Baloch will be more of ambushes and drawing them more into ambushes and ambushes. So, losses will be much, much higher on this side for the Pakistanis.
You know, we've lost 12 people in this month in India.
Hmm.
ठीक है, 12 soldiers have been lost this month. And हमारे अंदर इतना गुस्सा है. ठीक है, we want to, कोई पाकिस्तानी आ गया तो उसका सिर पर तोड़ देंगे हम लोग. Literally, government क्या करे ना करे, we will bloody break somebody's head. Simple as that. That's the anger. How long will Pakistan take the kind of casualties it's taking? यार दिन के 10-12, 10-12, 10-12 अभी का नहीं है ये. Literally, since I think you and I have started talking, the average is above 6 a day.
It's a norm. See, we are a people who live and respect peace. That is why our anger is very high. In Pakistan, unfortunately, Pakistan is a country which doesn't live in peace, which thrives on violence. The whole Pakistani establishment thrives on violence. The day violence goes away in Pakistan, the establishment is over. That is the basic difference between us and them. That is why there is anger on our side, but on that side, you don't see that anger coming across. Because for them, violence is a norm, dying is a norm. They have taken it for granted. And nobody is going to question them because it's an ecosystem of the military which thrives on this. So unfortunately, that is what Pakistan is. That is the biggest differentiator between us and the Pakistanis.
You know,
We have
it's
too much respect for our soldiers and we have too much respect for our own land. Pakistanis don't have respect for their soldiers. They're indispensable. There's a very thin line. Sometimes the non-state actors are more powerful than the state actors in Pakistan. In India, it can never happen. But in Pakistan, that is a norm. The non-state actors rule the roost. And people have more sympathy towards the non-state actors than the state actors.
I know. Today there is some pretty solid influencer in Pakistan stays in Lahore, by the way. Some 150,000 followers on Twitter and everything. And this woman wrote that if you don't believe Balochistan is under occupation, get your head checked. I was like, what? ये कहाँ से आया यार?
This
I mean,
is this is the this is the reality because this is the reality check PTI started giving. It's a political reality which have seeped into them, which Imran Khan was able to bring into them. Imran spoke about it.
yeah,
Imran said this, right? And people agree with him because now they can see what is happening with them. But the point is, how do they solve this thing? They've stood against the army in Lahore. They've stood against the army on Peace March, PTI Peace March. PTI is the only party which has been fighting this thing. See, good or wrong, bad is not the point. The point is, Imran did have a merit when he said that establishment needs to be checked. Now, he has his own ulterior motives for it, but at least he knocked at the right symptom of what Pakistan is suffering from, and it resonated with people, and people are talking about it.
to me, is a recipe for disaster, yaar.
It's a country basically on a disastrous path. There is a disaster happening everywhere in Pakistan. आप ये देखो ना कि पाकिस्तान में मतलब यार I was looking at the list of business people who get kidnapped there.
अभी
अभी
हाँ
वो
वो
लेटेस्ट
क्या
वो कोला नेक्स्ट का
पाकिस्तानी
सीईओ
कोला.
गए राइट.
Yeah.
हाँ, कोला नेक्स्ट का सीईओ ही इज मिसिंग फ्रॉम 2 weeks. No follow up. Nobody knows where he is. No demands. I mean, this is the state of the country. And what caught me by surprise today was this tweet from Maliha Lodhi today, where she said, now Shahbaz Sharif ka ki I don't understand what the foreign policy of Shahbaz Sharif is because the only foreign policy seems to be asking for money from everybody.
Hmm.
That is the reality of Pakistan. Her whole statement is that the whole foreign policy of Shahbaz Sharif is to go to a country and ask for loans. So that is the state of the country right now. So it is a disaster. It is an economic disaster. It is a security disaster. It is a social disaster. Very few people talk about the social disaster which is happening in Pakistan. Look at their healthcare. Look at their education. It's down the drain. Look at their social coherence. It's down the drain. Social intolerance is so high. This blasphemy has become such a thing in Pakistan that now people use it just to settle scores among each other. The rule of law doesn't exist on the land. So Pakistan is a disaster.
Where do you think this protest is going to go? क्योंकि the one that they took वो long march करी थी इन लोगों ने इस्लामाबाद की तरफ, and when they went towards Islamabad, ये वो कर कुरा के उसके बाद वहाँ पर थोड़ा सा झगड़ा हुआ. They led them to the border of Islamabad and they sent it back, और ये भी चुपचाप वापस चले आए. And they announced at that time कि भाई जुलाई को हम लोग दोबारा आएंगे, हम दोबारा कुछ करेंगे. And they've sure enough done this, और ये काफी टाइम से एडवर्टाइज कर रहे हैं इसके ऊपर कि 28 जुलाई we will all go to Gwadar and this and that. Now इसके अंदर 2-3 things है. They could have gone to any other place, they could have gone to Quetta, they could have gone anywhere else, but they're going to Gwadar, right? That's
Which is
a
interesting.
which is very interesting. So ये दो तीन चीजें हैं. After that, if you just kind of connect these three, and it kind of forms a picture. Gwadar, national, क्या Baloch, national gathering, the word national, and of course there is a public figure which is emerged out of this. देखिए KPK के अंदर there are multiple figures. फजलुर रहमान है, इमरान खान का थोड़ा चलता है, टीटीपी वाला है, ये है, वो है, 25 लोग हैं. देयर इज नो यूनिफाइड लीडर. गिलगिट बाल्टिस्तान के अंदर भी वो प्रॉब्लम है. देयर इज नो यूनिफाइड लीडर. सिंधु देश के अंदर लीडर्स हैं, ठीक है, शाह है और ये सब, वो जो इनके रेवोल्यूशनरी आर्मी के जो चीफ्स हैं, ऑल दैट स्टफ. यहाँ पर नाउ देयर इज अ यंग लीडर एंड शी हैज एज टू गो. 31 ईयर ओल्ड कहीं नहीं जाती है. इसको कोई ठोक ठाक दिया तो बहुत मतलब जल जाएगा बलूचिस्तान. उसके बाद
बवाल हो जाएगा.
बवाल हो जाएगा. How do you see this? Because this is the base requirement for any revolution to take place, if I may, is that leader figure. And ये इंडिया में नहीं, even in abroad, she's gone to European Union, she's gone to America. ये पूरा घूम घाम के आई है, सब कुछ पूरी
She's been
लॉबी करके आई
lobbying.
है. Yeah. So, and she's a smart woman, huh? Whatever said and done,
Very
she's a
smart.
bloody smart.
Very smart.
How do you see this situation with Gwadar, national leader?
See, if you look at the premise of the Balochis have always said that we have been robbed of our resources. The Pakistani state is robbing us of our resources. Now, why Gwadar and why not Quetta? Because Gwadar is something which the Pakistanis have been showcasing to the Chinese, with the Chinese for a long time, that we're building this port, and all the economic activity which is supposedly happening in Balochistan is happening in Gwadar. It is not happening in Quetta, right? So it makes perfect sense to look for your rights where the economic hub is, and that is Gwadar. That is not Quetta. That is why they are all amassing into Gwadar and saying, this is our resources, this is our land, this belongs to us, and we are equally, rightfully we are the owners of this, and whatever economic things were promised to us has to be given to us. The thing is, the Pakistanis,
इनकी गैस तो खत्म हो
चाहे
गई है.
गैस है, चाहे पोर्ट है, चाहे कुछ भी है, चाहे वो सीपेक बन रहा है, चाहे रोड्स बन रही हैं, none of the Balochis are involved into this. How many Balochi contractors are there who are building these roads? How many Balochi contractors are there who are working on the seaport? How many Balochi communities have been uplifted out of poverty with the money China gave to Pakistan for them to say our lives have become better because there was an economic package which the Pakistani government got? Zero but a zero. The Balochis are still the same, extremely poor, robbed of their resources, robbed of their rightful, and now they are fearing that our land is also going. The Chinese are planning to build colonies there. That was the initial plan was.
Beer factory and this and that and all that.
Exactly, beer factory. No, they were building a residential complex of about 25,000 people there.
25,000 people. Hmm.
Yes. So what is left for the Balochis then? So what has Pakistan given the Balochis? Nothing. So it makes complete sense to go to Gwadar than to go to Quetta. What will they get in Quetta? They'll not get anything in Quetta. But Gwadar is where they can claim that look, they have been robbed of rightfully of all the money which has been put out. Right? So it makes sense. And yes, even if अगर आप Khyber Pakhtunkhwa का भी देखोगे, Manzoor Pashtun is a very very important figure. Again, a very young man,
बट
very
वो वही है ना,
articulate.
द वायलेंट गाइज लिटरली
हाँ,
डोंट लाइक हिम.
मतलब मैं वही कह रहा हूँ. The violent guys don't like him, but here Marang Baloch is there. I don't think the violent guys would be looking at very differently at her. Would be in solidarity also with her because of the way she has been able to portray Balochistan. Basically, she has internationalized Balochistan for them, which the armed guys couldn't do on their own for a very long time. BLA couldn't do what Marang Baloch has done for them. So Gwadar from Chinese perspective is important. Gwadar from Pakistani
वो है.
perspective is important. Gwadar from Western perspective is important. Gwadar is the bone of contention is Balochistan. So that is why they are all moving to the national movement of Gwadar.
Marang, indeed. I mean, there's no question, and this is the last thing that we will discuss for the show right now. Marang ने जो काम किया है, whatever said and done, she's brought the game into the forefront. और ये कहाँ थी, कहाँ she was nowhere about 2 years ago. She's just been built up and इसको पूरा ready किया है, and she knows how to deal with this game. So she's obviously getting some input from somewhere. Where,
Yeah,
leave it alone.
it doesn't matter.
छोड़ो, doesn't matter. अब कौन कर रहा है, क्या कर रहा है, क्या मोटिव है, लेट इट ऑल गो. द चैलेंज फॉर हर वुड बी टू यूनाइट दीज फैक्शंस टुगेदर कि अगर कल को हमारे पास कुछ आता है तो हम क्या करेंगे. बिकॉज बलोचिस्तान में पॉपुलेशन पॉपुलेशन तो कुछ है नहीं.
बहुत कम है.
ठीक है ना.
3% of the total population of
हाँ,
Pakistan.
पॉपुलेशन है नहीं. दी ओनली वे दीज गाइज कुड पुट हैवी अमाउंट ऑफ प्रेशर इज दैट अगर ऊपर नॉर्थ में कुछ करें और ये साउथ में कुछ करें साथ में, तब पाकिस्तान का फोर्सेस स्प्लिट होती हैं एंड दैट बिकम्स अ बड़ी प्रॉब्लम फॉर देम. डू यू फोरसी स्टफ लाइक दैट गोइंग फॉरवर्ड, क्योंकि इन्होंने हिंट्स दिए हैं ये करने के लिए. एक दो बारी पहले ठोक चुके हैं. पहले एक बारी ऊपर ठोकते हैं, फिर नीचे ठोकते हैं, या फिर नीचे से स्टार्ट करा फिर ऊपर ठोका जाके. दे डन दिस बिफोर. वाज दैट अ प्रैक्टिस ट्रायल? पुराने जमाने में हम लोग बचपन में क्रिकेट खेलते थे ना, एक बॉल डाली, ये बॉल ट्रायल थी. तो ये
Try
ट्रायल था
ball.
क्या? हाँ.
First ball, try ball hoti thi. Yes.
या.
See, we have spoken about this before also, Aadi. Absolutely. They will have up north, they have their pacts, whatever pacts they have is together. They will be looking at the autonomy for them to govern their own area and good control on their own resources, right? They would not be averse to the Chinese doing business in Gwadar or the Americans doing business in Gwadar, given that they are in control of what is happening, of the economy which is taking place in that place, and not the Pakistani establishment. For that, they will need help from the north. Without that help, they are not going to achieve it on their own. That is for sure. Okay, so it's a large, and the north completely works perfectly for them. Why? Because that squeezes the Pakistani forces into a
रियली
much
हार्ड.
narrow area, right?
या रियली हार्ड.
Gives them a broader front against Pakistan, control of a broader front against Pakistan, and narrows and completely squeezes the Pakistani forces. 110%. If you remember yesterday, you sent me something about the Jabhat al Rabat, right? So what are the Pakistanis trying to do? That's basically a Pakistani operation. Jabhat al Rabat is no organization of Afghanistan. Rabat is
या.
a place in Helmand. Okay? Jabhat al Rabat is a manufactured organization by the Pakistani Information Warfare Department. So they completely started the disinformation thing yesterday, day before yesterday. Now, why did they do that? There could be a reason behind it. And I link it with the broader northern plan. If you remember Jabhat al Nusra, which was fighting in Syria, which was a part of
al-Nusra front.
Al-Nusra front. Jabhat al-Nusra, they now might be saying कि जैसे Jabhat al-Nusra सीरिया में फाइट कर रहा था, ये एक एक्सटेंडेड आर्म ऑफ Jabhat al-Nusra और यहाँ अल-कायदा की है जो इनको सपोर्ट कर रही है बलोचिस्तान. because the Pakistanis from a very long time are talking about Al Qaeda, Al Qaeda, Al Qaeda, Al Qaeda. Afghanistan is supporting Al Qaeda. They are trying to make that distinction again between the Taliban and
हाँ, देखिए
Taliban is supporting Al Qaeda. So to
अमेरिकन्स को अलकायदा ही समझ में आता है, उनको
हाँ,
बाकी
उनको अलकायदा समझ में आता है। तो वो अलकायदा, क्योंकि अगर आप वो याद करोगे, सारा वाला पॉडकास्ट भी वो भी बार-बार अलकायदा अलकायदा ही कर रही है। So now the Pakistanis are trying their best to convince the Americans that Taliban is supporting Al Qaeda and these organizations are linked to a smaller Al Qaeda plan of what is happening. That is why they started the disinformation campaign. Otherwise, there is no organization in Afghanistan which operates under that name. So it could be a false flag which the Pakistani military would have started for their own benefit. Otherwise, I don't think that on the ground any organization has moved away from TTP or any pact has been broken, or they will owe allegiance to somebody else. So the Pakistanis are playing two games right now. One is this Jabhat al Rabat, and the second one is what is happening in Kuram Agency in Parachinar. चिनार
हम्म,
parachinar में जो sectarian violence चल रहा है पिछले एक महीने से between the Shias and the Sunnis. Now, that essentially gives ISIS the fuel to fight the Sunnis and to launch the Sunnis.
Actually, मेरा last question था, if you don't mind, let me add a little something because now that you mentioned ISIS, I'm going to kind of interrupt you a little bit. ISIS has that we had discussed Valaya PP. Okay,
ISPP, ISKP, ISPP.
they've got that faction which is around here. Now, that is a very interesting faction क्योंकि वो they are attacking the Pakistani army, by the way. And somewhere down the line, I think this is IS's insurance policy against Pakistan. कि ठीक है वहां पर केपी में तो आईएस केपी वाला ब्रांच में तुम कर लो जो करना है तुमको, लेकिन हम भी तुमको ठोकेंगे. तो हाउ डू यू थिंक आईएस इज गोइंग टू प्ले इन दिस गेम, बिकॉज आईएस इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्टर दैट वी नीड टू लुक एट. एंड
See,
आईएस अभी
IS,
पाकिस्तानी आर्मी कंट्रोल कर रही है, बट यू एंड आई बोथ नो, ये साले बावले हैं, एनी सेकंड दे बड़ी
they can turn on to anybody any second. They are like a snake. If the more you rear them, the more they will bite you at the end of the day. That is what ISIS is. See, ISPP का अगर आप देखोगे, there was a time when ISPP attacks were high in Pakistan,
जी
right? They were low. That is the time when the TTP attacks were low,
लो
right? But since the TTP is back into the picture, the ISPP attacks have kind of slowed down. The reason was
ओके.
that there were a lot of people within the TTP who were opposed of, the peace process between TTP and Imran Khan, which was happening. So when Imran was, trying to offer them that peace process, resettling and all that, there were people within TTP who were very opposed of doing any deal with the Pakistan. See, the idea of ISKP, ISPP is that they are opposed to any kind of deal which is happening. As long as you're fighting the enemy, they are ready to join hands with you. The moment you start making deals here and there, right, or you start talking peace, they turn against you. So that is what happened. Now the TTP is back fighting these things. Many of the ISPP guys would have gone back with the TTP and said, okay, we are back. That could be one possibility. Second is the ISPP, which is already fighting the Pakistanis, is using that insurance, as you said, as a small insurance policy against ISKP, right? But that is a very minuscule part. Third is the ISKP and the ISPP largely now, ISKP especially largely now is a Pakistani project. We all know that, right? The Americans also sitting in Balochistan. We know that the what they say is ISIS has a small camp in Balochistan somewhere. We all know what is happening, what that small
नॉर्थ
camp
में
would be doing there.
नॉर्थ में
Yeah, so नॉर्थ में वो जो बोल रहे हैं कि नॉर्थ में है वो अलग है और यहाँ अलग है.
आर
तो
से कुछ जगह का नाम है, मैं नाम भूल रहा हूँ.
आई
आर
फॉरगॉट एट दिस टाइम. हाँ,
या
सो एक तो एफसी के अंडर है और एक जो है वो कह रहे हैं उसका हमको पता नहीं है, जिसमें वो अमरुल्ला सले का बॉडीगार्ड छुपा हुआ है, राइट? तो वी ऑल नो व्हाट दैट गेम इज ऑल अबाउट. So that is essentially what they are playing there. So ISPP का यही प्रॉब्लम है कि ISPP is not going to get that kind of a wind in Pakistan right now, because TTP would have taken over their legitimate claim. They would have drawn fighters from the disgruntled lot, but TTP is fighting and fighting hard. So I don't see that ISKP has any relevance left in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, in large parts of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. People will be hesitant because looking at ISKP, they would not be sure कि ISPP के साथ हमको करना क्या है. And given the Taliban influence, I don't think ISPP will be able to survive for that long in KP
Hmm.
region at least. They will rear their head somewhere in Balochistan.
मैं वही बोल रहा हूँ, how do you think IS will play a role in Balochistan? Because those guys love chaos like this.
They love the chaos. They see the problem with ISPP is which side they switch to and when they switch to, you don't know,
And
right?
resources भी हैं, so they can actually run धंधा शंधा smuggling भी कर सकते हैं.
So and
So
their whole thing is about smuggling. They thrive on smuggling routes. They thrive on narcotics. So that is where the ISPP whole lot of Balochistan is dependent upon. So let's see which way they swing on to. But I don't see. I have seen them very dormant for quite a long time now. ISPP is not making the kind of noises they used to make when things were okay in Pakistan. They're quite चुपचाप हैं, ज़्यादा शोर नहीं कर रहे.
how violent do you think Balochistan will become in the next some days? And guys, after this, let's get into your questions. So please, by the time he answers that, all of you, please like the video. Most importantly, how violent do you think this thing is going to get?
See the escalation will happen for sure. Because the Pakistanis have pushed the button on this one by the way they have treated the Baloch protests in Gwadar for Gwadar. This is going to escalate. Now, what will happen is, one, the Pakistanis are going to come under attack in Balochistan. Again, their military is going to be under attack. Two, you might see this spiraling down towards Islamabad once again. I wouldn't be surprised to see that Marang Baloch declares a march towards Islamabad. And they again start this game. So the violence is going to be high. Balochistan is going to be on violence level पर आप ये लेकर चलो कि 9 or 10 का ratio है इस वक्त between KP and Balochistan. So they are not very far away from each other in terms of what is happening in the region. And that intensity will be maintained by both of the sides.
न्यूज़ नहीं आती ना वहाँ से, जो गाड़ियाँ उड़ती हैं almost every second
बहुत
day.
मुश्किल है वहाँ से, but ठीक है, मतलब there are few people बहुत you have to really follow them and keep your eye on news. बलोचिस्तान केपी से तब भी बहुत न्यूज़ आती है एज कम्पेयर टू बलोचिस्तान से न्यूज़ निकालना बहुत मुश्किल है. एक तो इंटरनेट का बहुत प्रॉब्लम है वहाँ पर, ये हर दूसरे दिन वहाँ इंटरनेट बंद कर देते हैं, तो वो भी एक इशू है. इन्फॉर्मेशन फ्लो नहीं होती है टाइम पर. बट अगर आप ये देखोगे कि पाकिस्तानी आर्मी की कैजुअलिटीज हो किस साइड पे ज्यादा रही हैं, वो बलोचिस्तान में हो रही है. दे आर सफरिंग मोर इन बलोचिस्तान.
Yeah, because
ज्यादा
those
है.
guys, these guys do that bloody rocket attacks and all that stuff.
हाँ,
दूर से खड़े
so
होके
the
करते हैं, पास
intensity is
जाके
very high.
yeah,
The
yeah.
intensity is very high. So Pakistanis are taking high losses in Balochistan, and the intensity will go up.
It's not that easy, right? One we all think कि अच्छा अब ये हो गया, अभी टूट जाएगा. It's
नहीं,
not.
it's a slow चीज. ये ऐसा नहीं
Yeah,
होता कि आज हुआ और सुबह ये टूट जाएगा. It's not like आपने कुल्हाड़ी मारी और उसके दो हिस्से हो जाएंगे.
yeah.
It's
And
a
because
small.
the problem there is, as I said, I was talk, and you also mentioned it very rightly, कि population नहीं है. Plus
लैंड मास बहुत बड़ा है.
लैंड मास बहुत बड़ा है और बहुत सारे ग्रुप्स भी हैं इसके अंदर. ये नहीं है
हाँ,
कि कहीं ना कहीं सिर्फ
नहीं,
वही.
Pakistanis have tried to do demographic changes also into Balochistan. No?
जी.
And the Chinese and the Pakistanis drug smuggling syndicates are also sitting in Balochistan. They now have these MMDA factories sitting in Balochistan where they produce these MMDA tablets and then they, essentially push them off from the borders on both
MDMA.
sides. MDMA, sorry, yeah. So they are going on to this. So it's not easy,
It's
but
not easy.
it's not easy, but the but is the state is losing control.
या एज अ मैटर ऑफ फैक्ट मैं तो बोलता हूँ दिस फायर इज ऑन. थोड़ा सा घी डालो. डाल रहे हैं कि नहीं डाल रहे हैं मुझे नहीं पता, बट हम लोग बोल देते हैं डालो डालो, थोड़ा सा डालो, क्योंकि इसमें चाइना भी ठुकेगा, पाकिस्तान भी ठुकेगा, और जितना अमेरिका अंदर घुसेगा वो भी ठुकेगा साथ में. तो फॉर
नहीं,
अस
वो
आई
तो है.
थिंक
और Chinese, I think by the next year, Chinese will have to seriously ascertain कि इनको करना क्या है.
या
They will be in a very difficult situation.
ट्रू, एब्सोल्युटली. Guys, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. We've got 843 likes. We can actually take it up to 1,000 very easily. So please, all of you, my request is like and of course subscribe. And you guys can contribute towards this channel using the QR code or PayPal link, which is in the description, or you can use super stickers or super chats or become members of this channel as well. Let's see. Sabse pehle, there are three members I'd like to acknowledge. God Kanani, thank you so much. Abhay ji, thank you so much for becoming a member. And G Shankar, thank you, G, for becoming members. Firstly, Saurabh Anand Saab कहते हैं, thank you. Firstly, we want to travel to free Balochistan and visit the Hingalaj Devi temple. You know, guys, there is a tribe from the Baloch. I don't know what is the name of the tribe. I don't know, Raja, if you would know. They have been kind of protecting this temple for,
For
you
very
know,
long time,
very
for
long time.
ages,
Yeah.
for generations to come. Yes,
एक tribe
I
है,
forgot
मैं
the name of the tribe. हाँ,
forgetting the
I
name
forgot.
right now.
Google कर लो, मेरे पास laptop नहीं है, but I know they've been doing it for a very long time.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
Balochis
yeah.
are very different also, not very secular kind of people,
Yeah.
very nationalist, very secular.
I mean, guys, can somebody Google the name of that tribe and put it across in the comments, please, so that we can kind of
Yeah, I will
Murray
be
tribe.
grateful.
Murray. Yes. So they've been taking care of that temple, and it's they do regular pujas there and everything like that. So it's very interesting. I mean, wish someday we can go. Anonymous ji, thank you. Sir, like Tibet, can China in far future with their expansion mindset use these BRI projects to barge into Pakistan and other countries if war breaks out?
Do the Chinese have the teeth to bargain? The Chinese should have barged in long before if they really wanted to protect their BRI. But it seems like they're developing cold feet. And the war breaks out. The war is already on in Pakistan here. Internally, Pakistan, the war has already broken out. Look at what is happening in Balochistan and KPK. It's essentially a war only happening there. It's a mini war going inside Pakistan. The Chinese have not stepped in single feet. So we really don't know if the Chinese really want to step in. I think the Chinese are very paranoid and they don't want to get their military involved into things. वो शो के लिए ठीक है, वो शोकेसिंग के लिए वो उनको दौड़ाते हैं और the technological might and all that, but then you have to be very careful of the kind of warfare China is into. They could be into bio warfare also. They might use biological weapons like COVID. We saw was a messed up thing, but then you don't know how Chinese will operate. Chinese war machine works in a very different way.
पागल हैं. I mean, if trust me, if COVID was a weapon that the Chinese wanted to use, I think it was the stupidest thing because it backfired you. I mean, it hit you harder than
Yeah,
anything else.
it just went bad for them, I believe.
Stupid. It was like a boomerang that came and hit their backside. Saurabh ji, once again, thank you. Pakistan is like Basmasur. Midas touch turns everything to.
Well, a lot has to be blamed for a society which doesn't allow free thought to grow. Eventually dies of rotten thoughts. They're dying of rotten thoughts.
Yeah. Anonymous ji, once again, thank you. Sir, please put Gyat ji ke live score on the screen with us. 65 है मेरे हिसाब से. And last week एक गया है. तो मैंने आपको दिखाया भी था उसका हमीद समथिंग. तो 65 है. Let's see. ठीक है.
कौन सा वाला?
रूबी अज्ञात वीर.
अच्छा, okay. There are a lot of agyats.
हाँ, अभी बहुत कुछ है. कभी अज्ञात शेफ हो जाता है, कभी इंजेक्शन वाला हो जाता है. एक का मोडस ऑपरेंडी सबसे बेस्ट था. Somebody came, poked him with the injection, and the guy died.
Anything is possible in Pakistan.
I was like, yeah, this is interesting. Aadi ji, is it true that there's infiltration in heavy in Jammu area? This time they are not terrorists but Poki, Kayers?
Infiltration in Jammu is there. It is not. It's a fresh infiltration. It's been happening over a time, slowly, right? Now, I know a lot of people are apprehensive because on Twitter somebody has put in that it's an SSG who is in control. That we are not buying that shit. Look, uh, most of them are from Lashkar-e-Toiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed, and most of these modules sometimes are headed by. Let me be very clear. Are headed by an quote unquote an ex SSG official. So let's say when there are 8 or 10 modules which are working, and everybody is an important module or a big module, then you're talking about 8 to 10 SSG guys at the most. 11 at the most, not more than that. But I really don't think it is an 11. The number is between 7 and 9. But the infiltration is heavy. I mean, how do you measure heavy infiltration? The numbers are in double digits. They are not in triple digits. They're not in 4 digits, right? But yes, it's a problem, and it's being dealt with effectively.
It's not that easy to come and go, huh? As this gentleman, whoever tweeted this, कि 600 आ गए and all that stuff.
नहीं 600 का तो essential मतलब है you are essentially at war with India. If
Yeah,
600 of
तो
your
तुम
uniformed men is sitting in India or sitting on this side of the border, then you essentially are saying that we are ready for to go to war with you, right?
यार
And
अगर 6
600 कहाँ से आएंगे? आएंगे कहाँ से?
600 हाँ, कहाँ से आएंगे?
You know,
There is no
कहाँ से
place.
आएंगे? कोई बस या ट्रेन में बैठ के तो आएंगे नहीं. यहाँ तो हमने जहाज तो उनके लिए रखे नहीं हुए. So that is a lot of Pakistani information misinformation bunker. But yes,
Yeah,
there are a couple of modules where some Pakistani SSG commandos are heading them, and they have been operating in Rajouri Doda area. But that's has always been there. It is not the first time it is happening. This is the modus operandi of the Pakistanis. They
yeah.
don't distinguish between their regulars and their terrorists. Their terrorists
Terrorist.
are as good as regulars are also terrorists.
You know, I've said this. जम्मू में थोड़ी तेज गर्मी भी होती है ना, जम्मू कश्मीर में भी गर्मी हो रही है थोड़ी ज्यादा. That also we should blame at Pakistan. It should be that. That should be our policy. गर्मी ज्यादा हो रही है, ठक मारो सारा किचन में. गर्मी कर रहा है तू बेवकूफ. It should be like that because you gotta. I think you know Pakistan deserves a little lawn mowing from regular time to time. तो अननोन गनमैन तो है, बट थोड़ा अननोन गनमैन्स होने चाहिए. मेंस, if you know what I mean. Gents.
Well, that is one measure to deal with it, but I think there are other measures have to be seriously looked into because
Yeah,
this will become a nuisance otherwise.
yeah.
For us, I'm telling you, Adi, even one soldier is
Too
too
precious.
costly, too precious. It's too costly a life to lose. For them, losing 15, 20 per day is no problem. But for us, I don't think even one life is acceptable. Losing one life is acceptable, and I think we need to seriously look into this issue.
Parthaji, thank you. Looking at the news from China, oi, what is the future of larger than the mountains and deeper than the sea?
Well, looking at the future of China, Chinese future is not that great. Contrary to the image they have built world over, the Chinese are struggling on their own ends. The Chinese economy is going down. Chinese have a population issue, right?
Amazing.
They're facing that as well. The population bulge is heading more towards the old age. There are not enough young people who are going to carry the Chinese economy forward. The Chinese economic policies are failing, whether it is Africa, whether it is Pakistan, whether it is Sri Lanka. They are regularly failing, and the losses for the Chinese companies are mounting, and they will start collapsing. One fine day, they will not be able to take this burden on. So
There-
it's not that great.
There's a massive flood in China right now. Massive flood. I mean, there are 4 cities that are underwater. यहाँ पर देखो एक कुछ हो जाता है तो कितना कुछ होता है. I am seeing pictures in China, you will not believe it. And
नहीं,
by
and
the way,
the problem
the
आता
pictures
नहीं है
I'm
ना अगर.
seeing, the pictures I'm seeing is स्ट्रीट के ऊपर पानी भरा हुआ है, 3 जेसीबी लेके पानी को आगे लेके जा रहे हैं.
That is very intelligent of them.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm not joking. The floods are extremely crazy in China right now. I'll show you. Let's all also see the halat. Yeah, there you go. I will just switch this on 1 second. This is just I just typed China floods on Twitter, and this is the first kind of video I'm getting. Look at that.
Oh my god.
And this is not in one odd place, huh? This is in multiple cities. Multiple cities. It's pretty bad. It's not. I mean, if you just scroll around, you will find. Look at the, all flood, 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 flood. Look at that. Oh man, that's
Yeah,
scary.
that's what I'm saying. The
And
Chinese
this
are.
is in Shenyang, huh? This is a big city, by the way.
It's a big city.
Yeah. Look at that. I mean, there's literally floating
It's
the
a big
car.
city. It's
Yeah,
a
देखो.
big economic city for
Look at
for
this. Look at
Chinese.
this. This is Chaozu. Look at this. I
हाँ तो वो
mean,
जो एक पिक्चर दी जाती है ना कि चाइना एवरीथिंग इज सो टेक एवरीथिंग इज हैप्पी एवरीथिंग इज दिस
Fujian, Shanghai. Look at this, man. ये देखो. ये मेन स्ट्रीट है आपकी रोड के अंदर. ये देखो.
इट्स हॉरिबल एंड यू डोंट नो हाउ मेनी पीपल हैव डाइड इट विल नेवर कम आउट
No, 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 no. That they will not come out and say. It's
इट विल नेवर कम
ridiculous what's happening in China right now. I mean, when because see, I get quite a lot of input China से मेरा favorite research है. दिन में आधा घंटा मैं चाइना पे थोड़ी नजर रखता हूँ हमेशा. Every day,
नहीं
half
राइट
an hour. हाँ. So when I see this stuff, you like
यू
deserve
नो व्हाट्स
serves you right, but
इट्स हार्ड
they're not Pakistanis. पाकिस्तानी
या
जब ऐसे कुछ होता है पीपल अंदर से कोई मुंह पे बोलेगा नहीं बट अंदर से सबको खुशी होती है हाँ जाने दो साले बेवकूफ China you see this it's crazy and the funny thing about China is the places where there is drought ठीक है so they north and south में there's a place where there is drought and there's a place where there are flooding in the south जहाँ ब्रह्मपुत्र वैली के अंदर
साइमल्टेनियसली बोथ
so they've put up pipelines to take the water in the north and kind of use that water. The problem is right now the north is flooding.
engineering marvel they call themselves
Oh, I don't
and
buy it.
nature
Yeah.
has its own way of getting back to you, no?
I don't buy it. Yeah, because they've kind of
That's what I said, no, that was a sarcastic way of saying things.
yeah. All right. I have somebody telling me it's unethical and un-Indian to mock and rejoice the misfortune of another sovereign nation. If you're talking about Pakistan, lady, I don't think Pakistan is not a sovereign nation.
Pakistan is a quasi state.
Yeah. Zesji,
And
thank
we are
you.
not mocking it. We're just stating the facts.
No, it's okay. There are few free thinkers that are there in this world that we need to
No,
keep up.
that's okay.
Free speech, yeah, that's fine.
Morality
Oh,
is very subjective. Go
free
ahead.
speech, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I
Katoristan,
said.
Katoristan army killing two Waziristan people burning alive in the sand. Sandhu refused to leave. I am okay. Oil with payment. By the way, how would Katoristan waive off visa fees for 126 countries in these times? Yeah, they did that. हम
That is how
tourism
bad
बढ़ाएंगे.
Pakistan is. Nobody is
हम
ready to come to Pakistan. So they have waived fees of so with the hope that somebody will come to Pakistan and visit them. That is how bad Pakistani economy is. And
I
that
mean,
is the reputation of Pakistan that nobody wants to visit a country called Pakistan from the world. That is why they had to go ahead and do all this. This tells you the state of Pakistan, no?
yeah, absolutely. Rajesh ji कहते हैं there are 6 players in Balochistan, Pakistan, China, TTP, Baloch Azadi groups, America, Iran. Who is with whom? Ultimately, who will take control and PLA and others resist USA like China? No one knows, sir.
There is there is a game called Chinese checkers. Please check
Yeah,
that game out. You will get your answer.
I mean, it's so bloody ridiculous. Okay, what are your thoughts on Hamin Mee's tweets? He's an establishment bootlicker.
You have explained it. Do you really need my thoughts more on that? I mean, it's a known fact what he is. The man is an ISI plant, and that is what he is. He's been sitting in an ISI lab since the day he was tried to be assassinated by the ISI. So Ahmed Mir is just an extension of ISPR's mouthpiece.
Okay, Sujoy ji, we Indians jealousy guard 650 US billion. Why not spend 1 billion in Afghanistan? May I ask what makes you think we are not doing that?
Yeah, we don't guard. First of all, we are not guarding our 650. We are involved in a lot of projects. Look at the way we have helped Sri Lanka. Look at the way we have been helping Afghanistan. We're building dams there, and we have quite a few. According to CIA, we have given how much, sir? $10 million only for right.
यार,
So
I
no,
am
it's not
telling you,
that.
the CIA chief should bloody resign. If you think we gave $10 million and got 60 people shot, boss,
That is what
Modi
I'm
ji
saying.
ki jai. Modi
But on
Saab, you
this,
are the king.
but on the serious note, we are spending money in Afghanistan where it is to be spent. We have bilateral things are working with Taliban. We are bilaterally working with them. We are invested in projects in Afghanistan. We had put 3 billion before Afghanistan took over, Taliban took over. Investments were there in roads and dams and all that. So India is investing. It's not that we are sitting on our money.
Anonymous ji, thank you once again, sir. Any challenge to US dollars that goes into deflation? यार, इकोनॉमिक्स का सवाल है. डिफ्लेशन, इन्फ्लेशन,
भाई
कुछ
पता नहीं ये पता नहीं
कहीं तो
यार. I'm
कहीं तो
pretty
फ्लेशन
sorry.
होने
I
वाला
can't
है.
answer. I can't answer this question for you.
No, see, the
This is
US
no. I'm not
dollar
the
is
domain
gonna
expert.
US dollar is gonna get into a certain amount of threat because what's gonna happen is a lot of countries as now have started using their own trading currencies. So the demand for the US dollar will crash, right? Going forward, if you required $100, when 30 countries start using their own currency, you will require 70. So if
Ah,
there are
but
100 countries using. Mhm.
what I understand is still petrodollars are their thing. It won't be that bad for the US.
No, the Saudis need their nukes, man.
Yeah. So that's still that money is floating. I don't think Americans are going to deflate that bad. It might
Yeah,
shrink. It might not deflate.
the Saudis needs their nukes, so
Yeah, 100%.
उनको चाहिए.
Even the Pakistanis are talking about it that we should do trade with Russia and deal on our currency and all that nonsense. In Jang, they will start talking about. They want that rail project to go to Russia. No, they're
Yeah,
talking about.
yeah.
They
The
went to
best
Russia
thing
with
is
that.
the West, especially the Chinese affiliated, Russian affiliated media. इन लोगों ने बहुत वो फैलाया नैरेटिव क्या कि भाई पेट्रो डॉलर खत्म हो गया.
No,
अच्छा, ठीक
since
है.
what has happened is since the Chinese have stopped giving Pakistanis the money, no. Now Pakistanis have found a new way. Now they are telling the
हाँ.
Russians will build a holding. You ask China to put in the money, and we'll do it for you. So that is the new Pakistani game to squeeze money out of China. Chinese are not that dumb as Pakistanis think they are.
या पेट्रो डॉलर का भी है. देखो वो बंद हो गया. यार, सऊदी अमेरिकन का डिफेंस डील अभी नेगोशिएट चल रही है, तो कहीं नहीं गया
Negotiating.
अभी
So,
वो. कुछ नहीं
so
हुआ.
it's not happening at the way it's being portrayed to happen. No,
या बिकॉज यार, अमेरिकन भी, यू थिंक दे विल जस्ट रोल ओवर एंड डाई? आई डोंट थिंक सो.
no, no, no,
राइट.
no.
प्रीस्ट ऑफ मास, थैंक यू सो मच. बांग्लादेश का जन्म कितना गड़बड़ था. पाकिस्तान गिर गिर जाना इतिहास की सबसे खूनी घटनाओं में से एक होगा. हमें इसके बाद के परिणामों के लिए तैयार होना पड़ेगा.
I think हम हो रहे हैं. Everybody knows this, or every country is having their own plans how to deal with this.
या.
And this is the start
anonymous
of end of Pakistan. What the Chinese, the Americans, what we are doing in Pakistan, it's the start of end of Pakistan.
Anonymous ji, thank you once again. You say China wanted to be a pioneer in cloud seeding. Do they? Yeah, I mean,
That's on the
lighter version of
third comment.
things.
Yeah.
Shankar ji says Pakistani army learned from their mistake in Bangladesh and changed their genocidal ways in Balochistan. They took them out systematically over decades. Now there are very few people left to fight back. That's true.
See, if you remember the guy who surrendered in, I forgot his the Niazi who surrendered in Bangladesh, then was sent to Balochistan, and he carried out a genocide there. He was made in charge of Balochistan, and they've been carrying out this genocide for since 1970s, for God knows when, since 60s onwards. So the Balochis are few people to fight back, yes, but there is a systematic. Pakistani state has fought systematic. Look at their minorities. They have carried out their genocide systematically within Pakistan. Same has happened in Balochistan. The only thing they couldn't do is with KP because they knew that KP region is not somewhere they can carry out this systematic, जेनोसाइड, अदरवाइज ये तो वहां भी यही करते. दैट्स द
That's true.
मोडस ऑपरेंडी ऑफ पाकिस्तानी आर्मी
That's
एस्टैब्लिश्ड.
true. That's true. Interesting. Sandeep ji, hi Adi and Raja ji. What do you think if Trump is elected that there'll be the last nail in Pakistan's coffin, as I believe he will not release any funds to Pakistan?
Well, if Trump comes back, then the demise of Pakistan will be quicker than what we anticipate. The period is 20 years. We think it'll happen in 12 years or 15 years. But yes, look, Trump might squeeze their funds, but Trump is also very transactional. Don't forget the
Yeah.
American interest first. The Americans need to survive in the region. Trump also needs to deal with Iran. So Trump might squeeze them, or Trump might be might be a tight ringmaster. But then the American interests are more supreme than what Trump thinks or how Trump wants to squeeze them. And don't forget how Trump used to speak about Imran Khan. So it's not going to be, they will not squeeze them dry. The drop will become a bit more smaller. That's what will happen.
Rushi ji, last three questions. USA and China involved in Pakistan. What about Russian part in this conflict? If USA is interested in region, Russia will also get involved. Russia also has ISKP to kind of counter, right?
Russia has interest in the region. Russia will be looking how to counter ISKP. Russians are already looking into it, and that is why Russians are strengthening their relationship with Taliban, because they know that Taliban is a very stable ally against Pakistan for Russian interests. So
Hmm.
yes, the Russians are playing their game, but they're playing in Afghanistan.
Saket Dalalji, what is the fate of Balochistan, a separate country or a puppet of America? What and should be the stand of Bharat in this? Why Bharat isn't building an embassy in exile of Balochistan in Delhi or London?
See, the Balochi movement is not there globally where you have to build an embassy of exile
Yeah.
for Balochistan. Number one. Number two is a separate country, very, very difficult. An autonomous region governed by the Baloch, but under the bigger ambit of Afghan Taliban or TTP or the forces which are fighting the Pakistanis. That's a future, or a broken Balochistan, which will be half taken over by the Iranians, the Chinese, the Americans. Broken Balochistan is also very high probability. Depends on how this is going to go. How the region pans out in next 5 years or so.
That's true.
There are a
And
lot of combination permutations still there.
last one is our friend from KP who says our fight will continue. Inshallah, Almighty God makes it easy for us. By the end of next year, Pakistan map will definitely change because this country's root was made out of innocence blood, 1938 to 1955.
5. Hmm. That's an interesting period he has quoted from 38 to 55 now. That's a very interesting period for Pakistan.
And let me take another one if you don't mind. Ragini ji says, what about the American soldiers in Pakistan Afghanistan border? How far is it true?
See, the American soldiers, there were soldiers in on the Afghan border. There was an exercise which was going on between the American forces and the Pakistani forces, and that exercise lasted for about 2 weeks. The Americans do have a base around that area. Now, Americans have a lot of bases, the high value bases and the small value bases. This one is a small value base, it's not a high value base. But yes, there are American troops which are stationed out of that base. And they're sitting there not for love of Pakistan, but for their own love against Iran and the Chinese.
Yeah. And they did go towards the Afghan border. There is no question. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. It
there
was
is
all
news.
along the Afghan border. That exercise happened across along
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Afghan border.
There is news that
The
they
Americans
had
spoke
based
about
up. Yeah, they had based up in Bannu. That's why Bannu was chosen for a tang.
No, I
Fine.
don't think so. I
I
think that
don't.
is more. No. Americans don't make
know.
bases like that.
No,
Would
not
not do
base.
that.
यार when you go for an exercise कहीं तो एक होम बेस बनाओगे ना सामान रखोगे
होम
ये
बेस
करोगे
बनाओ.
तो
अच्छा. नहीं, वो एक्सरसाइज तो खत्म हो गई यार. वो तो 3 महीने पहले एक्सरसाइज खत्म हो.
yeah. नहीं नहीं अभी दोबारा हुई है 2 हफ्ते पहले.
हाँ, तो वही ये दूसरी साइड पे हुई है, बलोचिस्तान वाली साइड पे.
Yeah. So
केपी वाली 3 महीने
खत्म
पहले
हो गया.
खत्म.
Anonymous जी थैंक यू. कहते हैं भाई AK-203 कब आएगी सर? आ गई है, 35,000 तो ऑलरेडी आपके फोर्सेस के अंदर है। एंड कश्मीर में जो अभी ठुक रहे हैं ना, बाय द वे, लॉट ऑफ द वेपन्स आर 203s, एंड चाइना के अगेंस्ट में काफी सारी लगी हैं, सो दे आर ऑलरेडी देयर।
Two or threes are in circulation.
या या थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू सो मच फॉर फॉर दिस वंडरफुल डिस्कशन, क्योंकि आज टुडे एक्चुअली इज द डे व्हेन दिस थिंग इज हैपनिंग। 28 का इन्होंने अनाउंस किया था, एंड आई वाज पूरा दिन, पूरा हफ्ते से मैं सोच रहा था कि ये 28 विल बी एन इंटरेस्टिंग सेशन, क्योंकि वी नीड टू काइंड ऑफ लुक एट दिस पर्टिकुलर सिचुएशन वेरी केयरफुली। एंड ऑफ कोर्स हमारी तरफ से एक जो भी, जितना हमारी तरफ से एज टू सिटीजंस ऑफ भारत, वी कैन ऑलवेज गिव मॉरल सपोर्ट टू आवर friends in Balochistan. So keep
Always.
fighting, stay tuned. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Jain sir. Thank you.